What's going on, everybody? Jay from Infield Media here with a very, very special video coming your way. The first of many, because we do have a couple more planned and I'm very excited for them all. We're going to call them IMIs, Infield Media Interviews. Easy enough, right? This first guest is somebody who has paid very close attention to me and Rich's favorite team of all time, the Phillies. But he has paid attention to their minor leagues with the Iron Pigs, Reading. Also does a little work for the hockey side, paying attention to the Phantoms, who are the affiliate of the Flyers. But that's neither here nor there. But this is a very special interview. I'm very looking forward to you guys seeing it. And all of his information will be in the video. So you can go check out his articles. You can go to his Twitter. All the nice stuff you guys love. But I'm going to be signing off from this point. As always, it's Jay from Infield Media, and I will see you guys in the next video. Today, I am joined by Mark from Top Level of the Minors, and what we are going to talk about, as been requested by a lot of people, is some Phillies talk, but with a little bit of a twist. Instead, we will be focusing on more of the minor leagues. And Mark, just once again, I want to thank you for joining me.
Hey, no problem. Love talking baseball, man.
The same way. I'm really looking forward to this conversation, and I truly don't want to waste any time. I want to jump right into it. A lot of trade talks have been going over the years, and with trade talks, it usually brings up prospects, which, you see Painter's name a lot. You see Justin Crawford, Aidan Miller, and even the more recently, Gage Wood has been in trade talks. But there's one important prospect missing, a former first-round pick as well, in Dante Nori. And the question I want to ask you is, why do you think Dante Nori doesn't get the type of attention that the other top prospects do?
With regard to trade talks, I think maybe he doesn't have a loud carrying tool. As a draftee out of high school, by nature, he's a ways away. Not that didn't stop the Twins for wanting to get Tait, but when you have a premium position like catcher, maybe that and the bat for Tait is a carrying tool. But for Nori, it's more his speed and his defense, and maybe that's not quite as loud or as attractive as it is. But he did 3 levels last year, and he should be mentioned up there with the rest of the top prospects as a guy that, he's got work to do, but he should come on and he should have a chance to challenge and help the Phillies in the outfield sometime, hopefully soon.
Yeah, I was looking at his stats before we jumped on here, and through 3 levels last year, he hit .261, only had 4 home runs, so I guess there's a little bit more in his bat to be desired. Drove in 7. But the one thing that's really stood out to me is he stole 52 bases.
Yeah.
And I cannot remember off the top of my head the last time, like maybe Scott Kingery, the last time we saw a prospect with this much speed.
Well, you don't think of him as a speed guy, but real quick, look up how many stolen bases Aidan Miller had last year.
See, I never would have guessed that. I can't believe it. Like, you talk about,
he can run a little bit.
Yeah, 59 stolen bases. Like, so not only do we have Dante Nori stealing 52, but we have Aidan Miller stealing 59.
One of the things I love about Aidan Miller and his stolen bases last season was that he just decided he wanted to do it. That he spoke with coaches before the season. And he's like, yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to steal a lot of bases this year. And they're like, yeah, whatever, just do your job, play shortstop, get used to the level, everything. Like, no, I'm going to steal bases. And then he just went out and did it. So, I like that kind of player.
I truly did not, like, when I think of guys who are fast on base, and I know I had mentioned it on Twitter at some point, I actually went to a Wilmington Blue Rocks game when they played Jersey Shore, and I had the privilege to see both Miller and Crawford, and I think Crawford maybe had 3 hits in that game, but a couple were infield singles, and then he did get one to the outfield. But my God, man, can he fly? It is insane. And, with all these guys who are jumping back to Dante Nori, with all these guys in front of him, I mean, can you see Nori making an impact for the big league club? Or
I don't think this season. I think this is a good year for him to get his bat going. He's going to be in Reading. It's a hitter's park. Nobody's 21 years old, so he's like 2 years younger than the level. So he's got plenty of chance to just get the bat going this year, and everything else will take care of itself. So I don't see him being a fast mover, or I'm not even counting on him being with the Iron Pigs this year. But you never know. You know what they say:
Yeah.
if you don't like where you are, just play better, and you'll get from him.
That's a damn good way to put it. I mean, speaking of a bat that really, I don't want to say caught a lot of people by surprise, but for those who mainly just watch the Phillies, last spring training, I want to get his name right, Gabriel Rincones. I
Yeah,
think
Rincones.
okay.
Yeah.
He came out and put on a show in spring training, and I think a lot of people were like, well, we needed a right-handed power bat, and lo and behold, we have this guy here who's been in the minors. And to, I guess, a lot of people surprised, we never even saw him with the big league club last year. I mean,
Rincones is lefty.
Was he?
Yeah.
See, then that's probably one of the reasons why we didn't see him.
That's an important part of his story, but it's also an interesting part of his story. But just to go back, when I do have season tickets at Reading as well as at Lehigh Valley, and when we saw him early in the season, because he got injured early on, but very early in the season at Reading, my son and I went, and my son, who's a baseball guy, and we're sitting there and he's learning who the players are. I'm all read up on him, of course, and he's just watching like with fresh eyes. And that first game, he goes, "Whoa, that's a guy." When he saw Rincones. So we've been big fans around here for a long time, and he certainly had a great spring training, but I didn't look at all the pitchers that he faced. But you're facing minor league guys sometimes. You're facing guys that are working on stuff. They're not strictly trying to get you out, So things settled down for him a little bit when the real baseball started last March and April in the northern part of the states here. So it took a little bit. The really interesting thing that I found, and I watched the whole season before I heard this, but I heard it here in the off season, was that they're coaching him a little bit differently. One of my sons calls him the Dylan Cousins #2, and because he's a big lefty and he can't hit lefties. So maybe not very nice, or or whatever. But whatever. We love Dylan Cousins too, but we always remember, like, look, he's got to work on hitting lefties. He's got to work on it. He's got to get better if he wants to be in the majors. Got to do it. No, what I heard was the Phillies, their approach to him was to kind of project, look, what's he going to be? And you put him in the majors. What is he? He's a corner platoon outfielder. So they told him, you know what? Don't worry about lefties. We want you to mash righties. We want you to, get, learn the zone, get your pitches you want to hit, get your feet under you with righties. Just go out there and mash righties, So they would sometimes give him the night off when we had a lefty starter. They were treating him at AAA like a platoon. Not that they wouldn't start him sometimes. It's the minors. You play anytime, but once in a while, if they had extra outfielders, guys get their turn, he'd get a break on a lefty day, because what they really want is for him to mash the righties. So yeah, I think that, the Phillies have plenty of lefty hitters, but if they need a corner guy to mash righties, that's what Rincones is training for, and he can learn lefties along the way.
Yeah, so it kind of sounds like if, and I don't want to wish ill on anybody, but if Brandon Marsh happens to come down with, some kind of injury and they need a lefty outfield bat, then it almost seems like it's Crawford, maybe, if Crawford doesn't make the team somehow, or Rincones to step in for them. Yeah,
I think Crawford's been penciled in center field. Everything I've heard is, that it's his job to lose. He spent the entire year at AAA last year, and he did nothing but hit. Never went through one slump, missed a few games with an injury. Never, not, no hiccups. Everything. You reposted something on what we used to call Twitter the other day. I saw you had somebody, I think it was Phillies Tailgate or somebody, had up, stat lines from Crawford every single year through his whole minor league career. They're all the same. The guy that does that, he just hits. And, for Phillies fans, I'll tell you something, it's going to drive you crazy sometimes, because he doesn't have a great approach. he'll go up there and he'll hack at the first two balls he sees. He'll hit two fouls and he's down 0-2. And you're like, oh my God, what are we doing? And then he'll work a walk and then he'll steal a base and then he'll score from second. Or he'll go up and wait for something and then he'll crack one off the wall, or you'll question his routes in center field. Like, we know he can run. Why did he have such trouble getting to that? He got to it though. So, and then you're like, he's just not that, he's not an exciting player. And then you look at the box score, he's like, he went 2 for 5 with the stolen base and 2 runs scored. It just does that every night. So, no, I think it's his job to lose as long as he can show up, in spring training and, approach his work properly. And with his pedigree, I have no reason to believe that he won't. And, beat out, Johan Rojas. I think it's his job to lose, and he'll be there. One of my baseball son said to me today about, I wouldn't be surprised if the Phillies were in the playoffs and Rincones was subbing in with Garcia, left-handed platoon for Garcia. I'm like, okay, we'll see.
It's funny because you actually did bring up the other player who I did quickly want to mention, with center field pretty much being Crawford's spot to lose. What does this spell for the future of Johan Rojas?
I don't know. I think at first last season, maybe he didn't deal with it really well when he was sent down, from what I was hearing. I didn't have any personal contact with him, but some of what I heard was there was a little bit of settling in, but after that he did fine. He played hard. You see him, I follow him on social somewhere, I think, and I see him playing in the winter leagues, and he's mashing and having fun. And, so I think he'll do great. He could come up in a trade spot. I don't know. That's just my speculation, but he's a fun player to watch. I've always been a fan. But he's had, he had an opportunity, and now maybe it's time for somebody else to get an opportunity. Back to Crawford, and the other thing about it is, like, it just doesn't look right. He's got this bat. His bat is too big, and he holds it in the wrong spot. Now, I'm saying this, I don't know anything. I'm not a baseball player, but it just doesn't. I watch a lot of baseball, and his bat is too big, and he's holding it too high. And it's no wonder he's mashing the ball into the ground every single time. Couldn't we just go 1 week with him with a smaller bat, and maybe lower your hands a little bit, and let's just see what happens? No, he just keeps doing the same thing. So we'll watch and we'll see. But yeah, I'm expecting him to come into spring training, and maybe it won't be like a light up the scoreboard kind of thing, but him to just do enough plus that they put him in center field and bat him ninth. And because lineups work differently now with the DH, bat him ninth, and he sets a table for the big bats up top. And if pitchers want to take him lightly, he'll just line one through the infield and be on base and cause havoc that way.
I like it. And I'm really looking forward to what Crawford brings to the table in spring training. And the one thing I always see that makes me laugh is when people on Twitter, of course, criticize Crawford, the one thing they always bring up is the lack of power in his bat. And it's one of those things you just have to laugh at, because when you look at his numbers, like you said, he's hit over 300 at all levels. I mean, we're talking about a guy that's getting on base, stealing bases, scoring runs. Like, I'm not too concerned with the lack of power with what he's able to.
Yeah, and some of it's going to come because it's not, I joke sometimes about, well, tell me all your favorite memories of the Ben Revere era, so about, not hitting home runs and all that kind of thing. But the fact is, Crawford hits the ball hard. He does. He has superior hand-eye, and that's why he can battle back from an 0-2 count and make something out of it. And if you look at like exit velocities and that kind of stuff, and I'm not deep into the weeds on that stuff, but I see it, and he's hitting the ball really hard. He's squaring things up. He's just putting it directly into the ground. So yeah, he's hitting the ball hard enough to get it through the infield lots of times. And if he does get it a little more level, they shoot into the outfield no problem. So I think maybe there'll be some power there once he kind of, finds where he can pick his spots and go for it. But then again, I've been saying that about Bohm for years. So we'll see. We'll see where the power comes. But, it's not that he's a soft hitter. It's just that it's a launch angle kind of thing, and just because his hand-eye is so good, do you want to? How much do you want to mess with that?
Yeah, and I think it's funny too because his father, obviously Carl Crawford, former major leaguer for a long, long time. I was looking through his stats, and his dad has never even eclipsed over 20 home runs in a year. So it's not like he's coming from a family full of power hitters. Like, but his dad was known for more of his speed, his ability just to put the bat to the ball. So, I mean, if we get anything like what Carl Crawford was, I don't think I can even complain about that. It seems like it'd be
No,
crazy too.
no, no.
Speaking of spring training and, people to keep an eye on, obviously Andrew Painter is coming into the spring training, and I don't want to say fresh off Tommy John because he did make a bunch of minor league starts last year. Some good, some kind of iffy. From what you saw being at the games, what did you see from Andrew Painter? Do you think it's enough for him to possibly win that fifth starting job?
Yeah, I do. What I saw was just a lot of inconsistency. That the stuff would be there, and you'd see the pitches, and then you'd see not the pitches, and then you'd see just that one didn't work, and that one got too much of the plate, and then he lost the plate for a while, and then so just really unevenness. But I think there's something with Tommy John to the year after, for a couple of different reasons. I was looking at. The guy from Miami, Sandy Alcantara, that he had Tommy John the same time that Painter did, close, and he didn't have a great year last year for Miami. His numbers aren't jumping off the page. He was inconsistent, and he was back at the same level that he was at in the majors, whereas Painter's learning a new level. He had like 3 weeks at Double A, and then all of a sudden he's in Triple A, and people are saying July you're going to be up, and all that kind of stuff. I just think it was a lot, and it took some time. It's just work for him to get everything in a row. And think about also last offseason, he was spending the entire offseason after doing a little bit of Arizona Fall League, spent the entire offseason rehabbing, getting ready for spring training. This year, he spent the entire offseason training to be a major league pitcher. So he's going to come in, and I think we're going to see a little different Andrew Painter. I'm don't have any inside knowledge. I'm just saying, I think it's a year after the year after, and he may not grab a job right out of spring training. I have on my first Iron Pigs roster guest that I wrote on Christmas Day, I have him as a maybe for the Iron Pigs because they may ask him to make a handful of starts and let some things work out in Philadelphia before they pull him up. So he may start here. It may still be some work to be done, but I think there's I think he's going to be in the mix. I think you're going to see some differences.
I like that. And, the one question that I didn't write down, but it's just a quick one. Do you still see Andrew Painter as the guy that can really be like the top of the rotation type of guy, or do you think he's kind of gone to like middle of the rotation, maybe on the back
No,
end?
I don't think he's in the major leagues. I mean, there's only really a handful of true horse aces, and I don't know if he's that. I think he could be. I mean, I think it's in the range of outcomes, but I think the biggest, the bell curve where the biggest part of his I think it's number two starter, maybe number three, maybe number one, but probably right around number two. That's what I think. But again, that's just my opinion, not really based on anything, but just kind of watching and his, his kind of physical profile and what he can do with the ball. That's where I see him.
You brought up a player earlier, and I'm really glad you did because it actually works with this question. When we traded for Duran last year, obviously we had to give up our top catching prospect in Taib, which was a little bit of a hard pill to swallow because I feel like catching prospects are kind of a dime a dozen. And with the Phillies' current situation, with only having Stubbs and Marchand as the only signed catchers, with Real Muto's free agency still kind of lingering, is there any catchers that you see in the minors that could possibly be of any help this year?
It's pretty barren. Yes, I'm worried. I have big concerns about that position and its depth in the system overall. And I think they really need to get JT done. I know he's not what he maybe was 7 years ago, but I think I think they need to get him done because there's not a ton. Caleb Ricketts last year, it was his second year in Reading. He got injured, so he missed some time, had to work his way back, but he was better. I thought he was better in 2025 than he was in 2024. We'll see if they challenge him with AAA right out of the chute, or whether they kind of get some, depending on what happens with the big club. Do we have Stubbs back here? I saw Stubbs' contract. He has another option, and he could be back with the Iron Pigs. But his contract includes a really nice salary to play AAA baseball. It's good work if you can get it. If you can get that much money to work in Eastern Allentown. So we'll see what happens, but so they may, sometimes AAA is spare parts. So we might have a veteran guy. We might have Stubbs here. We might have something else. There might not be room for Ricketts right away. Maybe they want him to play, but I definitely think we'll see him sometime during the year, and he's the guy to look at. As far as Tait, I mean, what was he, 19? I mean, he's young, and he wasn't like he's a guy. I think he played a different position, and they converted him to catcher. So he wasn't. It was his bat. It was special. So he's not even a guarantee to stay at catcher. It'll be interesting to see him work his way through the Minnesota system. But even though he was the top catching prospect, I don't think he was really realistically depth for the major league team. Not now. In a couple of years maybe, but even though he was the top prospect, he's not depth. So yeah, they need depth and they need prospects. They need all of it. They need all the catchers.
And, as you said, you go to a lot of Reading and Lehigh Valley games. So you've seen Marchand in person. You've seen him come up through the system. And obviously last year I wouldn't say the type of year we were all kind of expecting as him being a backup catcher, but do you think that it takes like maybe a year or two for him to really get his feet set, or, how would you grade his season?
I'm just not sure. The biggest thing with him, I think, is durability. I think that if you ask him to play too much, that he's probably going to get nicked up. The fact that Stubbs was here at Lehigh Valley for basically the entire season, I was shocked. I thought, there's no way, Stubbs is going to go up because Marchand's going to twist an ankle or play hammy or wrench his shoulder or something's going to happen. I like Marchand a lot as a player. I think he can do a lot of things. Doesn't hit for power really, but he can play good defense. He could throw the ball a little bit. So I like Marchand a lot, but his biggest thing is durability. Where if you could say, okay, Marchand's our number one guy, well, I think you're going to have your number two guy, whether that's Stubbs or whether it's somebody else. You're going to have a number two guy that can really play, that can take to, we're used to JT just taking all the games, but you need a guy that could take, I don't know what percentage to put on it, but 20%, 25% of the game, somebody that can really give Marchand a break.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that worries me the most with the catching depth that we have, is that if JT doesn't come back, which, I don't want to put that in the air, and, it would look like you would almost go into this season, if we don't add anybody in free agency, the big league would go with Marchand and Stubbs backing him up. And, when you look at the catching depth, you're like, shit, what are we going to do?
Yeah. No, then you've got Ricketts and probably some kind of veteran free agent guy as in AAA. The one of those guys we had last year, I don't know if he's still under contract. We might have another guy that has, kind of cup of coffee in the majors, has a little bit of experience and ton of experience at AAA. So you might have a couple of those kind of guys, but as your number 3 and number 4. But yeah, that's shallow. That's not deep.
And as we're slowly starting to get to the end here, the one thing that, the one question I do have for you that I am excited about, are there any prospects in general that you're going to keep your eyes on, that you're really going to pay attention to?
Well, I'm going to pay attention to a lot of guys because I'm just kind of interested. I'm always interested in the stories, guys that are comeback guys that are like reclamation guys, your Mark Appel kind of guys. I like all that stuff, which is one of the reasons I like the minors so much. But in terms of if you're a Phillies fan or your audience, if Phillies, like, who's going to come up this year? And I don't know his name right now. And he's going to be a key part of this Phillies team later in the season. Who's that guy? And I'll tell you who it is. He's a right-handed pitcher. His name is Alex McFarland. He's a reliever, and he's had 4 games at Double-A. But the Phillies put him on the 40-man roster, and they did it because they were afraid that somebody would take him, put him in the majors, and he would do fine, and they would never see him again. So they protected him by putting him on the 40-man. They think he can move fast. They think he has the stuff to do it. He just needs a little time, but it might not be that much. I think you'll probably see him by the All-Star break. We'll see. But there was a good article in, I think it was Phillies Nation the other day. There was an article about the bullpen, the Phillies bullpen, and about 6 spots are locked up, and there's 3 spots available. But there's guys. They have a Rule 5 guy they brought in, I think from Miami. They've got a couple other guys they signed that don't have any options, so they're either going to make it or they're going to be cut or have to pass through waivers. So they've got guys that they can use at the depending on whether you want to say front end or back end of the bullpen, but kind of like down the list in the bullpen list. They've got guys for those spots starting out, but that'll give you some time. But McFarland will be the guy you're going to hear his name by July 1st probably, and whether he becomes like an up and down guy or whether he becomes go up there and stay there and get a bigger and bigger role as the summer wears on, that could happen too. So he's a name that everybody should get in their memory banks because you're gonna hear it again.
So I'm looking forward to that. I did mention mine in the email, and I do want to get your opinion on them. I really like Keaton Anthony, and I once again had the pleasure of seeing him with Jersey Shore, and you talk about a guy that's kind of flown under the radar in terms of Phillies prospects. And when I look at his stat line, it's like, all right, like he does hit for some power. He drives and runs, hit well over 300 this year. It's just like he's a right-handed bat, plays in the outfield, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's starting the year with AAA this year. So I'm definitely excited to see, if he can stick it in AAA. It's like, all right,
yeah, we'll see if he gets any more outfield time. I think they were kind of had him as a first baseman pretty heavily, or maybe it was just we had Carson Taylor got injured, and that's when they brought Keaton up, and he just kept hitting. He was hitting and reading, and he just didn't stop, just kept hitting, just hitting. And I haven't met him, but I do know some people who've met him in person, and he's supposedly just the nicest guy. He's a really, really cool guy from what I hear. So that's always good too. Good to cheer for the good guys. And from what I hear, he's one of them, and he just hits. And yeah, who's to say? But I think maybe part of it is he may not have too much of a set defensive position other than maybe first base. And the Phillies have a guy at first base, so. But may call him first base Otto Kemp. He's the guy that just hits. His position is hitter, and you try to work him in where he, won't hurt you.
And that does actually want to make me bring out one more point on in terms of prospects. Obviously, the Phillies lost Griff McGarry to the Nationals in the Rule 5, and you've obviously had the opportunity to see him, I'm assuming, plenty of times. What kind of expectations do you think that even Nationals fans should have for someone like Griff McGarry?
I don't know. I that's one of those things where, one of the things I love, like he's got to battle his demons. He's got to battle his consistency. He's got to execute the pitches. And we know those pitches are in there because we've seen them. But, can he get them out at the right time? And can he do it consistently and, in a way that makes sense? And one of the things I heard last year, like in spring training, he didn't pitch well at all. And then as the season got underway, all of a sudden he shows up in the Reading rotation. And we're like, okay, well, they're going to give him a chance. And gangbusters, his first 5 starts, he was out of his mind. He was unbelievable. The best I'd ever seen him, because I'd seen him the year before that. So, so I'm like, oh my goodness, he figured it out. He's got it. And then he got hurt, and then he came back, and then it was good, but it wasn't great. And then some of the old demons would sneak in. But I think he's most comfortable as a starter. Sometimes with these guys, when they're trying to find themselves, they're trying to find their stuff, they like them in the starting rotation, even if they're not strictly starters, because it gives them a regular schedule. They know when they're going to pitch. They've got days off in between to work on stuff. Here's what I need to work on this week. This is what I need to work on. I'm going to work on these pitches. We're going to feature this mix. And, sometimes that doesn't, for fans, it doesn't look great when the next time, because like, well, he's throwing only fastballs. So, somebody might hit that. But if that's what he's working on, then that's what you might see, especially at Double-A. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I wish him the best, but in terms of what do I expect him to be with the Iron Pigs is what I expect. I think Washington's going to need a roster spot, and they're going to have to offer him back. And I think the Phillies will take him and put him at AAA and have him start some games. So that's what I think. But like I said, wish him the best. Want him to get those paychecks, get those MLB paychecks, and enjoy it and seize the opportunity. And that would be fine. Not against the Phillies, but
So even if he ends up back in the Phillies farm system, everything's good.
I welcome him back because I think, like I said, I like the story. I like watching somebody overcome an obstacle. That it's not just easy. It's not just you just show up and it's all just when there's work involved, and they all work hard. I know that, but when they have that that challenge to overcome, that story is always fun.
So, unfortunately, my co-host, Rich, who's also a giant Phillies fan, pays attention to him just as much as I do.
Froze up.
He had a question for you as well in the email I sent you. And his question was, has the scouting department grown more trust from the front office compared to, let's say, the early 2000s players pool, where call-ups could be entrusted more at a young age?
Not sure I understood that question completely. In terms of the scouting department, guys that are out there, at college games or at high school games, and they're bringing players into the system, or whether it has to do with the development system. In terms of when you say scouting, does that mean like the position coordinators and that kind of thing? So I wasn't sure exactly how to take that question, but couple of things to know, and again, I don't know everything, so this is just my observations. But when Dombrowski came in, he didn't do a whole lot of like weird system stuff right away. He wasn't firing people left and right, none of that. He took a year, kind of evaluate everything, and then all of a sudden you start to see things move. Oh, we got this guy, he's going to manage over here. We got this guy's going to manage over here. We've got these new coordinators. We've got these new evaluators, and then maybe you do have a couple new scouts and a new scouting director and I think what I observed was that there was much more consistency up all through the system. Guys are getting coached the same way. They get coached the same way as single A, high A, double A, triple A. When they first get to the majors, it's all kind of baked into the same plan. And I think that only goes to help players. And we talked about Justin Crawford, and he spent the whole year at triple A. Everybody wanted him to come up. Oh, I just want to see him. Well, the Phillies had a plan, and the plan was when he comes up, he's ready, comes up, he needs to play. Development doesn't just end when you get called up. You're still perfecting your craft. You're still developing young player. So they determined that it never happened that they had consistent playing time for him on the major league level. So it just never happened. And that was probably good for him. They were yanking him up and down, and you don't know how different guys handle that. Just not just the money, but the lifestyle difference between the minors and the majors. And it can mess with guys sometimes. And, or even if it doesn't mess with them directly, one of the other things that I've seen, kind of over the years is like, it messes with their surroundings, their entourage, their people that are with them, whether it's a girlfriend or a wife, or whether it's family members or whatever, they're in the majors, everybody's stoked. And then they get sent back down, and it's like, well, you don't deserve that. You should be a major leaguer. What's wrong? So they get all this kind of negative energy from people around them. Then that feeds maybe into it in a negative way. And being sent down can be kind of tough, sometimes. Over on the hockey side, we just saw a guy get sent down from the Flyers, and, 3 games with the Phantoms, and all of a sudden he's demanding a trade. got to get out of here. There's no way, I can't be in the minors. All right, out you go. So anyway, I think that's what we've seen kind of with Dombrowski, is that you've got a more consistent system, and when there's going to be a plan, and when a guy comes up, there's going to be a plan for him. Last year we saw it's slipping my mind now, the pitcher that we traded, Abel.
Yeah.
We saw Abel get called up, but he was told before he went up, he's like, this is one start. Don't worry about it. Let it fly. Do best you can. But no matter how you pitch a no hitter, we're still sending you down. So don't let it mess with your mind. This is the plan. So we're not going to change our plan. This is the plan. And I saw 2 Phillies games last year in person, and that was one of them. That start against Skeens. So we went down to that game, and it was a good time. The only problem with it was both of those guys work fast.
Yes, they do.
We were in the Hall of Fame club, and I'm like, I just got to go grab a drink, and I come back, and we're already through the first batter of the next inning. Come on, it's 20 steps away, and I'm missing batters. Just fast. They both work fast, but that was a fun day. But anyway, I think that's the thing, is you're going to see a plan. So you say, are they trusted? Yeah, they will be if it's part of the plan. And here's another story about it. Going back several years, one of the previous administrations somewhere, sometimes you get to talk to players, maybe see them in an informal setting, maybe a post-game event or at a bar or at a diner or someplace, and you say, and and at the time I may have been credentialed media, because I was for both Reading and Lehigh Valley at one point. I'm not anymore, but at that time I might have been. So these were definitely off the record kind of conversations. But the players, and it happened several times, would say, conversation would go, well, how was it in Philadelphia, man? Like, oh yeah, it was good. Oh yeah, got to get back there. Like, okay, yeah, we're cheering for you. Hope you get back up there. And and then as the small talk continues, it would come up like, the coaches in Philadelphia want me to do something a certain way, and the coaches in Lehigh Valley want me to do it a different way. So I'm not sure what to do, because if I don't do it the right way downtown, they won't let me get called up. And once I get called up, I'm going to have to do it a different way. And if I don't do it that way, I'm going to get sent back down. So what am I supposed to do? So there's this kind of inconsistency. That comes with a caveat. It comes with, that's their sensation of it. And maybe it's not accurate. Maybe they were being told the same thing. They were just being told different way by different people. And it was just the way that they took it. And maybe that's not exactly right or fair. But, the fact that I heard it more than once, makes me wonder if, sometimes things weren't exactly consistent. You have, this guy's been doing this job for this many years, and this guy's over here, and he's always done it this way. And oh, that's just the way the Phillies are. Well, Dombrowski knows how to build an organization, and I think he, I don't want to say cleaned house, but he kind of got everything. Everybody's rowing in the same direction now, and that can only help in the long term. Who knows if it'll get them over the hump or whatever. It's hard. Only one team gets to win each year, and only one team gets to sign all the good Japanese players. So we'll see what happens with that. But I kind of, from afar, I kind of feel like, oh yeah, it feels like they're doing it the right way.
Yeah. And just going back to a quick comment you made about like how players could be coached differently from different people, and more recently, I think we've seen one of the bigger victims of that was Scott Kingery, because it felt like in whatever he was doing in the minors was absolutely perfect. And then all of a sudden he got to the major leagues, and I don't know if the report was 100% proven correct, but I know he was working with a different hitting coach maybe, or Gabe Kapler wanted him to take a different approach. And then all of a sudden it felt like he just didn't look comfortable in his at-bats.
Yeah, the way I heard it, and again, I don't have any inside information or anything, but the way I heard it was that in the one off season, he hired a private hitting coach to help him work on launch angle, and it all had to do with like launch angle stuff, and that he wanted to get a better launch angle, but it kind of messed up his swing, and it messed him up. And then he got COVID, and then he broke his shoulder, and then it just kind of spiraled. And I don't know. I I remember seeing him at when he first got to AA. I remember seeing him when he first got to AAA, and it wasn't shot out of a cannon kind of stuff. I mean, he was good. He's a good player, and he run fast and played good in the field, the second base, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, different things like that. Like, okay, we're gonna work on this launch angle, mess up your swing. Oh, we're going to have you play shortstop. We're going to play center field. You're going to play over here. You're going to play over there. That can mess with a guy too. I think he handled it reasonably given what was asked of him and the age he was, but he was given that major league contract after having a great spring training. Like, he didn't have any time in the majors even yet. The Phillies were trying to jump in like the Braves did, sign a young player to a reasonable contract and not have to, pay for a past performance or pay the market rate when they get really good. So they were trying to do that, I think, and it didn't work out. And it's too bad. Again, wish Scotty the best. I remember his last game in Allentown, and he's like, yeah, I'm out of here. It was pretty clear that there were some things about because of the way the contracts work, and he's back on a minor league deal, and he still owed minor league time because he didn't really fulfill all of it and all of that kind of stuff. And they finally just traded him. They just said, it's okay. You paid your dues, and go try to try the Angels, try Colorado or wherever he ended up. Moniak tried Colorado. So yeah, I wish him well. I used to be an Angels fan once upon a time, so yeah, like to see him do well and get major league time and stuff. The other thing is he's from Arizona, so he wanted to go to a place that had spring training in Arizona. He wanted to be, he didn't want to be in Florida. He wanted to be in Arizona. So he kind of narrowed his search, or his first choices were all Arizona spring training.
Very interesting. I actually didn't know that. And then one final question, and we'll let you go. All the talk about, Miller possibly switching to third base because, Trey plays short, and with all the Bo Bichette rumors and him playing second, do you think this year we see Aidan take reps at third, or do you think the Phillies stick to the plan?
It's one of those things it's one of the first things I want to watch. He's going to be at AAA, and how many, opening day, where does he line up? That first, I still hate it, but it's the way it is now. We have these 6-game series. Every week is 6 games. Every week is Tuesday through Sunday, and that's it. And so you get to see the same exact game 6 times in a row. So out of those first 6 games, well, I guess maybe we start on the weekend and we get 3, but for the rest of the season, it's 6. Out of the first 3 games, out of the first 6 games, how many does he play at third base? It's going to be interesting. I still think there's more stuff that's going to get done. There's more chips to fall, as it were, whatever, to come with the Phillies roster. I think something will happen here or there. Somebody goes unsigned. Phillies swoop in and pick up a guy we didn't even realize was going to be available, and that makes something else available. If the Phillies want to trade something, they probably want to. We don't have Ross. We're talking about prospects, but man, it's not a deep list. Respect to all these guys, because I can't do it, but it's not one of the deeper prospect lists, and the top guys the Phillies have plans for. So, if you're going to trade, you're probably going to trade from your major league team. And that means who? Bohm, Stott, Marsh, so we'll see. We'll see what that ends up looking like. I don't have a prediction or any information about it, but that's what I'm kind of thinking is some other stuff is going to happen. We'll see how that goes. I think Aidan Miller needs some more time in the minors. But you can always use Sosa for a while. You can always do whatever. There's no reason to rush him. Like I said, they're going to follow the plan. They've been doing that right along. And if something extreme happens and they have to change their plan, then they'll change the plan, but then they'll follow that plan. So
yeah.
Away we go. But yeah, I'm going to be watching where Miller's lining up every day. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to see how they line them up at spring training, what Crawford's doing, how far of a leash they decide to give Painter. But I think spring training is going to be very telling for a lot of these guys. I don't think it'll tell the whole story, but I do think that it'll tell a fair amount of, where these guys are at mentally, what kind of work they've been doing in the off season. But yeah, it's definitely a lot to look forward to. But I want to thank you again for coming on, joining me, talking about Phillies prospects. This was an awesome conversation. And it's just, I can't wait for baseball season now.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. It's one of the reasons one of my traditions over the years is to kind of like I mentioned a column I wrote recently, like just, it's Christmas Day, all the presents are open, it's not time to fix dinner yet. It's kind of that middle of the day period, nothing's going on. Then my mind starts to wander and I'm like, who's going to be on the Iron Pigs this year? Because it's right after hot stove season, so some guys have been signed. There's a guy named, but we have our own Dela Cruz now or whatever. So
Yeah, we do.
That's so I wrote my first Iron Pigs column on Christmas Day. It's up at toplevelminers.com.
Perfect. I'll be sure to check that out. But once again, thank you very much for coming on. I truly appreciate it, and I'll definitely have to check back in with you at some point soon because I'm going to need all these minor league updates from you.
Sure thing. And let me know. The other thing that I'm always kind of a little bit of an evangelist about the parks. Like, that's one of the things about I didn't really need a press credential because I'm lucky enough that I get to have season tickets and I go and I sit in the stands and I enjoy a beverage and watch the baseball like it's meant to be watched. And I can, yell at the umpire if I need to. And so anybody, any of your listeners or your crew or anybody, if you have a chance, come up to Lehigh Valley, catch a game, get out to Reading, get a game. 2 very nice stadiums, great places to see ball games.
Definitely putting it on my bucket list for this year. Thank you very much, man. I really
Sure
appreciate
thing.
it. Take care.
Yeah.